Hi, today we're at the zoo of Gorilla Maker. What is Gorilla Maker? We're going to talk to Glenn Warner today and find out his story and how he started all this today on People of Northern Kentucky. Hi Glenn, welcome to People in Northern Kentucky. And I would like to hear a little bit first about your background, your history, where you come from, and how you ended up here in Northern Kentucky, and your family. And then you can explain why we have this machine in behind us here.
That's an easy one. I grew up on a farm out in Bracken County, Kentucky, not too far from here. And my parents decided to make farmers out of us when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I think Dad wanted to make sure that maybe I built and designed things instead of being a farmer, because it was hot and hard. And that's them guys are wonderful people, because that's a lifestyle I don't know how to do very well.
It's a hard lifestyle. Yes.
Very. So we grew up on the farm, and we always had to fix everything. You know, if it was a tractor, if it was a piece of equipment. And Dad figured out that I was very innovative as a child, that it didn't matter what it was. I didn't like how it was when we bought it, so I'd make it better or fix it. So I was lucky. I have a Uncle Charlie that was very innovative as well, and he would say, why just fix it when we can make it better? So I was only 10 years old when I learned that lesson. You know, moving a little fast forward there, I went out to college, and I might have failed a few times in that, more than other people might have. And I ended up with a job at a Fortune 500 company for about 10 years. That was a little bit different. I went from farming to working at a high-tech company.
Yes.
With lots of electronics, a lot of robots, a lot of maintenance, a lot of figuring out how to fix broken things. So I learned during that part of my life that I was known as the person that fixed broken stuff.
Okay.
And that was my calling. So that was that lived for about 10 years. And when I left that company, I left for one reason. When you're in a Fortune 500 company, they don't make decisions fast. They don't move very quickly. And innovation really is longer than I wanted anything to take. So I started out my own in some computer type work, because it seemed easy and I had a knack at it. So for the last 20 years, I've been doing the computer thing. Well, I'll come in, build your computer network, repair things. And during one of those jobs, I had a company down in southern part of Kentucky call me up and say, hey Glenn, you fix broken stuff. Why don't you come down here and help us with our server rack? Now this job was about 2 hours southeast. And I drove down to this company, and I show up, and there's hundreds of hard drives in a rack on the wall. And as I walked in and looked at that and said, how can I help you guys? There we go, this bracket about 2 inches wide is broken. I looked at that and I thought, wow, you guys called me down there for a broken bracket. What am I gonna do here? I'm just gonna order it. So much to my surprise, when I called the company, they didn't make it anymore. I looked at that and it's like, well, I got 2 hours invested in my time to go down here. So I think I'll 3D print it. And I told the guy, hey, I'll just print that out. I'll be back in a week. The guy says, great. I get in the car, I'm driving home. I called my wife and I said, Shelley, I have a great opportunity for us. Buy me a new 3D printer, because I have to make this bracket for a server rack. Yeah, by the way, I have the greatest wife ever.
Yeah, evidently.
Yeah. So she orders me one in. It comes in Valentine's Day. So I come home from doing my computer work, and there's this box on the floor. It's Valentine's Day. I'm looking at her, she's looking at me.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And she goes, you know we're going to dinner first? I'm like, yes, I know that. So we go out and we have a meal and we come back, and it's about 11 o'clock at night, and we break the box open like, I'm like a little kid at Christmas.
Yes.
I get it out, I set it up. I've already designed this part. So the first thing we do, we start printing the part, and it came out reasonably well. I printed a couple of them out, Monday morning, I drove back down to the customer. Confidently, I walk in the room. I said, yeah, this is just going to work. We put the drive in, we slide it in, it goes click, click, and pops right in, just like I designed it. Customer looks at me, he says, how much is that? I said, 12 bucks.
Oh gosh.
I just bought
It
a,
cost me a 3D printer.
I just bought a $3,000 3D printer. I charged the guy 12 bucks.
Oh my goodness.
He said, great, we'll take 600. Now I got my attention.
Wow.
I said, no problem, of course. Jump back in the car, driving home. It's a 2-hour drive. I call my wife up and say, hey, Shelly, I got a great opportunity. That customer just wants 600 of that $12 bracket. Greatest wife ever. And she's like, okay, I'll start printing them. About 4 days went by and the printer broke. And I was a little disappointed. I tried to call and I couldn't call anybody. I got online. Now, remember, this is like 3.5 years ago. So I was having a hard time with support. So I just returned it and bought a new one. Another $4,000 the second time. I thought if I spent a little more money, it would be better. I get that in a couple of days. I start printing, a week or so goes by, and it breaks. I'm not really the king of 3D printing anymore. I'm having a bad day. I'm trying to deliver these brackets, and things are breaking. And then the magic happened. I'm on the internet, I'm on a forum, and someone says, Glenn, you don't understand. When you buy a 3D printer, you have to fix it first before you expect it to work the way you want to use it. Well, they obviously didn't know me very well because I did understand. I don't spend $3,000 and $4,000 for anything like this and expect to have to fix it. Now, that doesn't mean I don't expect to do maintenance or, maybe the occasional jam. That's not what was going on in my world. The printer was physically breaking. It just wasn't well designed. So then I'm down in my shop. I'm having this conversation in my head. It was quite loud, I thought, in my head. I kept going, I could make a printer better than what I just bought twice. I barely got my order filled. It cost me $7,000 to make $7,000. So I wasn't feeling real special about that. I came upstairs and said, Shelly, I got a great opportunity for us.
Shelly's a wonderful woman.
She's the greatest wife ever, if I haven't told you. She gives me this time out. And I'm like, okay, what's up now? She goes, I know. We're going to build a 3D printer and we're going to call it Gorilla Maker. I was like,
She had the name?
yeah. I said, how did you know that? She's like, well, you've been down in the shop for 2 weeks screaming it. It's like, I thought I was having a conversation up in my head, but that was not the case. So then I set out and I called up a lot of friends of mine, machine shop owners, manufacturers, and said, hey, I'm going to design this printer in 90 days. And they went, Glenn, you don't understand. You can't design a printer in 90 days. Well, I'm kind of getting a lot of this lately. And I'm thinking, I don't think I'm going to listen. I don't think I care what other people think. So there was the lesson I learned. There's a lot of folks out there that when you're going to do something, sometimes we crabs and try to pull you back down the basket. And I was striving to get out. Yeah, I wanted to make a great printer. Now this one's called Lulu 1 because it was easy to spell. And you got to remember, I'm just a hillbilly with technology. There's just 2 letters there basically twice, so it was easy for me. So every time when I'm in an audience, people are asking, why Lulu? It's like, well, it's only 2 letters twice. It's easy to remember. So Lulu 1 is this exact unit. This design, exactly how it came out of the gate. I'm quite proud of that because going forward 3.5 years, when I take you to another case, the only thing you'll see different is this bezel is over here because we ran into an interference problem internally, another failure point. And by the way, I've failed a lot on this unit in incredible amounts of times. I feel like Thomas Edison at times that I can tell you hundreds of ways not to build a 3D printer. So I started out not with a touchscreen. I started out with a rotary dial over here on this machine. And if I'll turn this on, and you'll see that on this type of technology right here, that it has words on it and it has a dial that moves things around, but it's quite ugly in my opinion. But that's all we knew 3.5 years ago. Today, it's touch panels, it's touch screens, it's full color. That's really important in our journey in our company, because we just didn't build that printer and stop. We kept innovating it. We kept making changes to it. We listened to our customers. We actually asked them what we could do better constantly. And we did that differently than other 3D printers companies. A lot of them have forums online and they have maybe drama, maybe not, but that's how they choose to do that. I chose to go to my customers in person, anywhere they're at, anywhere we sold them, and ask them, if this was your printer, what would you do different?
So we're back to Lulu 1 again, and I want you to tell me the story that you told me earlier about the first demonstration of Lulu 1.
Yeah, that was a eye-opening moment for me. I set out to build this unit in 90 days, and on day 89, we're in our high-tech secret lab called my kitchen, and we built this unit, and we have 3 of these cases built. So this is the first one we started assembling for a show for Saturday morning over at the museum, the Mini Maker Fair show in Cincinnati. So it's about 10:30 at night. It's starting to print right. We're super happy about it. And as we was putting it all together and dressing all the wires up by tying them up nice and neat so nothing bad would happen the next day, I shorted 2 wires out and caught the unit on fire.
And this is the night before.
The night before, 10 o'clock at night. We're supposed to be there at 8 o'clock the next morning. So there's 5 folks in my kitchen. They're all staring at me and they go, "What's next?"
What do we do?
I chuckled a little bit and I go, "Well, we don't ever want to cross those wires again."
Let's not do that.
And I have one more motherboard, main board left. So let's change it out. And everybody looked at me and someone almost said, "Glenn, you don't understand. There's not enough time." But 5 of them were thinking it and I could tell it.
Yes.
And they opted not to say it. So
Smart of them.
we turned the unit upside down. We took all the parts back out of it, put the new system in there. We put the firmware, the software back on it, got everything running. It is 6:30 in the morning. We had worked all night on it. So I sit down in a chair, I fall asleep. 15 minutes later, greatest wife ever comes in and says, "You guys ready?" It's 7 a.m. She said, "We got to be there in an hour." I go, "No problem." So I look down the floor and there's like 5 bodies on the floor. All the guys helping me have fell asleep and they're just laying in my kitchen floor. So a couple of them get up, Nick, Luke, and especially he gets up. We load this in my truck and we get everything we need in there. We drive over to the museum and we're late. So they won't let us in. So I'm like, okay, pick this up, put it on the cart. We wheeled it around to where the people come into the show. I came over and bought a ticket to get into the show. And they're like, "What's this?" It's like, "Oh, I'm just taking this over to a booth." So I rolled it into the museum, into the Maker Fair show. I go over to where our designated area is.
Yeah.
I take it and I'm setting it up. Now the show's already started. It's like 8:30 in the morning now. And I'm setting everything up. I'm putting the filament on. I'm turning it on. I'm facing away from everybody. And then I turn around and much to my surprise, there's almost 50 people sitting there,
They're so
standing there.
fascinated.
Yeah, I was looking at the printer moving around. I was like, wow, first day, 50 people, this is awesome.
Yeah.
The whole day was like that.
Wow.
We had a crowd of 50 from when we set up till an hour after the show was done. And I thought, wow, we might be on to something. That was a lot of folks to process in one day. And the next thing you know, we started getting phone calls like crazy. One thing we did different than some other companies, we didn't use a Kickstarter or a crowdsourcing. I sold 10 of these, pre-sold them. just to companies I knew that understood that I'd fix broken stuff. So we sold 10 of these at about $5,400 each. And then we delivered them within a month of the first one being built. So that was quite an accomplishment for us.
Yes.
And after, I think, unit 35, we were in the kitchen still building these. And my wife comes home, greatest wife ever, and says, you, and you, pick all that stuff up and carry it outside. And the guys look at me and they go, what's up? And I said, I don't know, but we should listen to my wife, greatest wife ever.
You should do what she says.
So we pack everything up and they're like, no kidding, what's going on? It's like, hey, I don't ask a lot of questions. So we carry everything out to the front porch and they're like, now what? I said, I bet you she's gonna tell us. And she goes, you, and you, take all that stuff next door, as into this facility here. And they're like, whose place is that? I said, I have no idea. So we walk over, she unlocks the front door. They're like, really, what's going on here? It's like, well, she's got a key. That tells me we probably own it. And they go, you don't know if you own this house? I said, no, I just work here. I'm Gorilla Maker. I'm the zookeeper. So we all come in and we walked into this area and I was like, I can visually see our logo on the wall, machines set up on benches. I mean, I could just picture what the place was gonna look like when I came in. And then we started painting and putting logos up and building these workbenches and making sure we could put storage under them, making sure we could get our great units up on the top portions of the benches so we could work on them.
And Shelley could get her kitchen back.
And Shelley got her kitchen back. That was very important.
Yes.
So now I just walk to work about 150 feet.
Oh, wow.
And come over here. And that's the complete story of Lulu One.
So Glenn, you've also co-authored a book. Can you tell me a little bit about your book?
Yes, I can. It's called Ignite Your Life. It's with best-selling author Brian Tracy. And that's me.
With the goatee.
With the goatee. That's my favorite picture. It's the only suit that I actually own. And the photographer.
You don't seem like a suit guy, Glenn.
No, it's the only one I own. I've never wore the pants yet because I don't have no pants on in this picture. So I saved that. Now the woman photographer was humored.
Yes.
She did a great job. But this book has I'm one chapter in the book of about 26. And I tell the story and the struggle of how we started with Gorilla Maker. And the story I shared with you earlier. This book became a best-selling book as well, so now I'm a best-selling author.
Nice.
And I have quite a few of these books. I do not sell these. They can go to my website, gorillamaker.com, and there will be a link after this video that they can download my chapter free of charge. All they have to put in is email address. It'll email them back a link to download it, and they can have my chapter from the book for free.
Oh, that's cool.
No.
Well, why don't you show us a few other of your machines and explain what's the difference? I mean,
Good question.
Evidently, it's probably you've evolved.
Yes,
machines. And,
absolutely.
In 3 years, technology goes a long ways.
Yeah, we keep moving with the times, so to speak. We're kind of like pioneers in our industry because we're willing to take any risk and try anything in our machines to make them go faster. So right here, this machine here is a GM 3D 700. That's a GM 3D 500 Lulu One is.
All right.
So the only difference besides the plexiglass sides and this display right here is this printer can print up to about 500 degrees C in temperature. So I can print aerospace materials with this printer.
Wow.
Now that's pretty neat, and I've sold quite a few of these to research centers across the US because I can print aerospace materials. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be the future of our company, and then I realized that this case, I'm really in love with this case because it's the first thing I've ever engineered of this size. I realized that I needed something more robust. So when I take you down to the zoo in a few minutes, I'll show you how we evolved in case technology.
You were talking about your one type of customer. What are other types of customers?
That's a good question.
On a 3D printer?
We deal with machine shops, manufacturers, anybody who wants to build prototype items. Like we have a customer that needs 30 of these cases. So these two halves, we print one, it's about 10 hours to print this, 10 hours to print this. They bolt together, they have a lot of electronics in there, lighting in them, different mounting positions. If they had to go get this made, this would cost them $10,000 for a mold, to injection mold this. They only need 20. It's pretty expensive for 20.
Yes.
I printed these out for a fraction of the price for them. So, and I'm still printing some of those today for them.
So it could be almost any company that just needs a special piece, a special
Yeah,
part.
and that company made 3 changes. So if you made a $10,000 die, a $10,000 die, a $10,000 die, $30,000 later, you're still making 20 or 30 of these. You're having a bad day.
Yes.
Here, I'm just printing this at cost. You're having a great day because I'm your prototyper. And then when they figure that that design is correct, then they'll mass produce it. So this changes manufacturing. 3D printing, especially this size unit, I can get a 13-inch part across here. I can get something 16 inches tall. That's a huge part in 3D printing. Our mechanics is 3 times faster than all the competition, and I give a warranty is 3 times longer. There's one other company that has a 1-year warranty. Most of them are 30 days, 6 months, 90 days. We totally blow them out of the water because we're hillbillies with technology. We just don't know any better. We think something should last.
Yes. Well, you just described to me the customer that would need the parts that you can make. Who would want
By
the
the
machine?
machine.
Yeah.
School systems, tech schools, colleges, universities, research centers. We sell to a lot of research centers. We're going to be working with a NASA Siemens school down in Huntsville, and we're going to put 1 or 2 of the white ones down. I keep pointing to the red one, but the white units down there. And then we're going to bring, I'll show you the larger units is going to go down there
Yeah,
too.
let's go see the larger unit. This is the zoo.
This is our zoo. So down here we got a GM 3D 680 printer, and this thing is massive. As you can see, it's about a 5-foot printer, but it will print it'll print 6 feet tall. So it's really amazing. I'll show you a couple of the models in a minute that come off of this.
Yeah.
But it can print a 24-inch by 24-inch base up to 4 feet tall. And right here, a lot of people are like, what's this? Well, that's a mistake. That is a pig.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, the bottom of a pig.
Yeah.
That's not how the pig was supposed to look.
I would guess.
I'll show you the better representation in a few minutes.
Okay.
But I leave this in here because I do a lot of tours here, and I don't want people to think, we're not those people that clean everything up and go, oh yeah, these things are great, they make perfect. No, every 3D printer on the market fails somehow. And we know that, and we want to show the people the failure. Those are all the failures we've ever had in a year on this machine.
Oh, but that's not much.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, failed 4 times. That's it.
Wow.
Hundreds of prints.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing the robustness of this machine. Now up on top, that's a 10-pound roll of plastic. That's about $200 worth of plastic. I can print a lot of stuff. I can print 16 cubic feet of something in this unit. I can print people, analogs. So myself, I'd cut myself up, print myself up to here, then print my bust section, then glue me together. Be very easy to do. I do build these much larger. I build them where they have a 72-inch print area, 2 feet by 2 feet. Kind of neat.
Yeah.
Now this is our manufacturing down here, and this is where we're building other stuff.
I know a lot of the schools systems now are doing maker spaces.
Maker spaces. So this is great for a maker space. For a classroom, you'd probably want to put this in there. For your maker space, you're going to want this or that.
Okay.
or even the big one. So I hope in the Toyota space that there was donated to Boone County, I fully intend to have that GM 3D 680, the big tall one, in there.
one.
That's going to be in the space and a couple of these as well.
Oh, wow.
So somehow we'll work something out.
Yeah.
You know, Boone County's where I live. I've been here forever.
Yes.
Yeah, their space is going to have these machines.
They'll have you tell me a little bit about your employees. Who are your employees?
That's a great question. I'm really proud of this. Our company's open from 4 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. Several days a week. And the reason for that is juniors and seniors from our local high schools of our local area come work for us.
That's cool.
And everyone that's ever worked for me, like Gabe over there, Gabe is a stalker, because I went back and I looked at some video of ours from a Maker Faire show we was at,
Yes.
and Gabe was in 9 pictures of our booth.
So now you know Gabe was stalking you.
Yes, he was. And then one day he called me up and said, "Glenn, I would like a job." And I said, "Who are you?" "Gabe, of course." So he came in for an interview. He's been with us over a year now. And he's going to make a career path at Gorilla Maker. Now, some students, they go to college. Some choose to stay with us on our journey moving forward. And it's a great opportunity for Gabe. I mean, I'd sure like to have been 19 and ground floor of a company like this. It'd been a lot of fun. I've mentioned Gabe a lot because he's here today.
Yes.
I tell you, it's really neat to work with somebody at any age level that is passionate about what they're doing, because I love 3D printing. It's the coolest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I love going to shows. Gabe goes to shows with us. This year we're changing Gabe's role a little bit, and we're going to make him a mini Glenn. So he doesn't have to grow a goatee, but he's going to come to all our shows with us and travel with us, so he can understand how we're selling to schools and everybody, and be able to get the message out there as well, because he wants to grow with the company. So it's a great opportunity for us to teach him, and it's a great opportunity for him because he's passionate about what he does here.
Well, that's great. So this business started just because you were really just ticked off with with the 3D printer.
That's the
people.
best. That is the best way I've ever heard that described. Yeah, I was upset. Became upset.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you said, "I'll fix this. I'll do it myself." But then in the process, you've actually also are teaching all these young people.
Yeah, that's a really
A
good
good skill, but also getting affordable 3D printers into the hands of schools
everybody.
and maker spaces.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. Every Thursday at 10 a.m., get to know your neighbor by catching a new edition of People of Northern Kentucky.